Mavericks fans, welcome into All Things Mavs. I'm your host, Jimmy Crowther, and today I'm going to be breaking down some potential replacements to make up for the loss of Jalen Brunson. Now, here's the thing. The Dallas Mavericks don't have any open roster spots right now. But what the NBA is considering doing is opening up 1 to 3 additional roster spots for every single team headed to Orlando, Florida to play in the 8 games leading up to the NBA playoffs. Now, the thing that the additional spots are really meant to be for in case some guys get sick or the pandemic hits back again in Orlando and they have to sit out a few games. But how this benefits the Mavs is you've got 2 injured players in Jalen Brunson and Dwight Powell that aren't expected to be there for Dallas. So maybe you can go out and get another guy. Now, Jalen Brunson did tear his labrum and he missed those final 10 games of 2020 leading up to the NBA hiatus. But Rick Carlisle said, look, he had surgery on his shoulder. We do not expect him back. We're going to roll with what we've got. And he's a valuable player for Dallas off the bench. I love what I've seen out of Jalen Brunson. He was a steal in the second round a couple of years ago. Now, he's had a bit of an up and down season this year compared to his rookie year, but still a guy the Mavs are going to miss a lot. Now, the Mavs guard depth right now, the guys that are actually healthy, is still really, really solid. Of course, you've got Luka Doncic running the point guard position no matter what, followed by Tim Hardaway Jr. in the same backcourt. Then you've got Seth Curry, a guy who's been playing a lot of 2 guard, but now that Brunson's out, could be playing a little bit more of that playmaker point guard position. Of course, DeLon Wright and JJ Barea are the 2 main guys that I think will be immediately off the bench. I think Barea will be really good alongside DeLon Wright, and maybe Carlisle rolls out his famous 3-guard lineup of JJ Barea, DeLon Wright, and Seth Curry, because I really think that could work. But I think we'll see more DeLon Wright, more Seth Curry, and a little bit of a splash of JJ Barea here and there. But the question I've got for you guys, maybe you guys have a different opinion. Who is going to be that first guard off the bench now that Jalen Brunson is out with an injury? Let me know in the comment section below. I still think it's Seth Curry. He's kind of our 6-man scorer type, but maybe the Mavs want to go get one more guy to make up for the loss of Jalen Brunson. One guy that could really make sense for Dallas is a guy who's been here before, twice before, actually, in Devin Harris. Now, he hasn't officially retired from the NBA. You're saying, Jimmy, he hasn't played yet. Why are you even mentioning him? He's not even a basketball player anymore. Well, he played in 2018, 2019, and then he said he'd like to come back for another season, but it just didn't happen. He just didn't get the phone calls. Now, last year with the Dallas Mavericks, he was putting up 6.3 points per game, nearly 2 assists and 2 rebounds. Not a great 3-point shooter, but the reason I like Devin Harris here is because this is a really, really young Dallas Mavericks team. I mean, let's face it. You've got 2 all-stars that are 21 and 24 in KP and Luka. You need some guys to lead the locker room. Devin Harris knows Rick Carlisle's system. He knows the Dallas Mavericks. If you can sign him for 8 games and a playoff push and get some of his famous backdoor cuts with JJ Barea, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you don't have to cut anyone else. Just bring back a guy who knows the offense and throw him in right away. But do you actually want Devin Harris back for these 8 games and for those playoffs when they go to Orlando? Type Y for yes, type in for no. And here's the thing. Devin Harris isn't going to be playing 20 minutes a night. He's not going to be taking minutes away from DeLon Wright or Seth Curry. He's going to come in when need be, give those guys a breather, and he's going to be a leader on the floor and in the locker room. So I am all for a return of Devin Harris when the NBA returns in Orlando. Now, when the NBA returns in Orlando, you're going to want to rep our favorite team, the Dallas Mavericks. And the best way to do that is by going to Fanatics. When you go to chatsports.com/Mavs jersey, you get 25% off all Nike jerseys, all replica jerseys, any kind of Mavericks jersey you want, 25% off. Now, I don't have my Kristaps Porzingis jersey yet. I'm going to order that from Fanatics here pretty soon, but maybe you want to rep the GOAT, Dirk Nowitzki. Why not? Maybe you want a Luka Doncic jersey. Maybe you want a little bit of a throwback green to rep while they're playing in Orlando. Chatsports.com/Mavs jersey has got it all hooked up and ready for you to go. Now, one guy who's not wearing a Mavs jersey right now, but was earlier this season, is Ryan Broekhoff, a guy who would come in and not be a point guard replacement for Jalen Brunson, but would still be a guard, a guy that comes in and all he does is shoot. You need a 3-point shooter. That's what Ryan Broekhoff does. Now, he was hurt leading up to the NBA hiatus. He came back, played 1 game, and then played a couple games, and then the Mavs actually waived him to make room for Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who really hasn't been playing a whole lot for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, the Mavs do have a lot of good 3-point shooters already, don't get me wrong. But some of these numbers are a little bit misleading, so let me put them into context for you. Seth Curry at 45%, that's not misleading at all. He's one of the league's best 3-point shooters right now. Courtney Lee at 44.7. You're like, Jimmy, that guy is a knockdown shooter. Well, he's not taking that many threes, okay? So that number's misleading. Tim Hardaway Jr., another guy who 40.7%, that is incredible. I mean, one of the surprises of the NBA season of how efficient he's been. And then you got DeLon Wright and JJ Barea, both up around 38%. Good shooters, not shooting a lot. Now, one guy that would shoot a lot and he'd make a lot is Ryan Brokoff. That's what he did in Dallas, and I think that's what he can still do for an NBA team. The reason I like him here is because, like Devin Harris, he already knows the system. He's a plug-and-play kind of guy. You spot him up in the corner, and he knocks down a three. I don't think I'd take him over Devin Harris. I think I'd rather have Ryan Brokoff, but maybe you disagree. Which one would you rather have back for these final 8 games and have him back in those playoff push as well? Reason I say Devin Harris is because he's more of a veteran. He's been around the NBA. He's been around the Dallas Mavericks, so he makes a little bit more sense for a young team. Ryan Brokoff, probably the better player right now, but do you really just need more shooting? I'm not 100% sure. So let me know which Maverick you'd rather have back. Now let's talk about non-former Mavericks. And we'll go with Tyler Johnson here, formerly of the Phoenix Suns. They tried to trade him at the trade deadline. They just said, hey, we got to cut you, man. You got no room here. And he's been playing a career low in minutes in Phoenix. Because when we last saw him when he was with the Miami Heat, he looked great. I mean, he looked like an explosive player. But in Phoenix, his numbers were pretty dang ugly. Playing 16 minutes per game, and in those 16 minutes, he's only putting up 6 points, 2 boards, and 2 assists. So when he got playing time, sure, he was, effective. I liked him in Phoenix, and I thought he was going to be better than he was, but he just never came around. Now, again, in Miami, he was a great player. He was explosive. He could knock down a three. He could come in and give you a jolt of energy. I think he can get back to that because he's 27 years old. He can handle the ball. He can make plays for his teammates. A guy like Jalen Brunson being out could make room for a guy like Tyler Johnson. So maybe you're saying, we don't want any former Mavericks backs. Let's bring a new guy in. Tyler Johnson would be my top pick right now. The Lakers showed some interest in him. They were saying, we could bring him in as a guard option. And then they went out and got Dion Waiters instead. But a 27-year-old role player really could make some sense for Dallas. I think this is a guy who could come in and make a real difference right away if he can just learn Rick Carlisle's system. So I like this guy quite a bit. Now, if you want to keep up with all of our Mavs stuff, of course, we're updating here on the main channel, but where you need to go is youtube.com/allthingsMavs. That is our, you guessed it, all things Dallas Mavericks YouTube channel, all the time, 24/7 Dallas Mavericks coverage. If you're watching, if you've been subscribed already, you already know we've talked about Jalen Brunson being hurt. Today, we're giving you the updates on the replacements, but go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button on our All Things Mavs channel. Let's talk about one more guy here who's not a point guard, more of a shooting guard, comes in as a 6th man, Jamal Crawford. Now, yes, he is way older. He's about 38 years old now. So he's another guy who's a veteran presence. I was kind of wanting to compare these two guys between Tyler Johnson and Jamal Crawford because you got a guy in Johnson who's younger, still kind of a vet. And then you got Crawford who's older, really would come in and play right away. Now, last time we saw him was actually in Dallas when he dropped a 50-piece McNugget on the Dallas Mavericks and Dirk Nowitzki in his last game. And teams showed some interest in the summer, but he just wasn't getting those phone calls that he really wanted. As I mentioned, his final game in the NBA, he hasn't been picked up yet. I still think there's a chance for him. He said he's training like he wants to play again in the NBA. But when he last played, 51 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 7 made 3-pointers. If I saw that guy, now of course it's on the Phoenix Suns who don't have a lot of great players, but if I saw those numbers, I'd say, why have we not picked him up yet? Why has some team not gone out and gotten Jamal Crawford? Not necessarily the Dallas Mavericks at least, but some NBA team needs to be calling Jamal Crawford before these 8 games get going again and they go into a playoff push. Now, for the Dallas Mavericks, I'm going to say no thank you because we have Seth Curry. We've got our 6th man. We don't need Jamal Crawford. If we're going to sign a guard, I'd rather it be a point guard replacement for Jalen Brunson. But the main question lies here. Does Dallas even need to add a player? Let me know in the comment section below. If you say no, that's fine. Just leave it at that. If you tell me yes, if you say, yeah, we need to add somebody, I want to know who you want. Who do you want to replace Jalen Brunson? Because he's not coming back in Orlando. He's not coming back for the playoffs. They might need to go out and get another guy, but maybe they'll just build from within. Now, Josh Reaves has been playing with the Texas Legends. He's on a 2-way contract, but the Mavs could activate him for these 8 games and for the NBA playoffs. He's a great athlete, and in college at Penn State, one of the best defensive players in college basketball. He was stealing from other players. He was blocking every shot as a guard, and he was putting up good three-point numbers too at Penn State. Now, we last saw him with the Legends, and his numbers weren't incredible, not like a guy, hey, we need to call this guy up right away. But that's because a lot of what he does really well is on the defensive side of the ball. With the Legends, he was averaging 14 points per game and 5 boards to go along with 2 steals per game, one of the best defenders in the G League as well, and nearly 33% from 3. So yes, you could bring him up, and the NBA is actually talking about just saying you can activate all two-way players for these games. If that's the case, activate Josh Reaves, Mavs. Please activate Josh Reaves. We are all begging to see him in action for a little bit because he's fun to watch. He's a great athlete, and he's a good defender. Now, no, he's not going to handle the ball for you a ton, but he's going to come in. He'll give you 5 to 10 really solid minutes and a lot of energy, and that's all you need to do. You won't even have to add another guy. But I like Josh Reaves. I like Devin Harris. I think both those guys could be solid additions to this regular roster. And now the biggest question, because the Mavs are basically firmly in the playoffs, how far will they actually go? What round will the Dallas Mavericks make it to? Maybe you want to be ambitious and say, hey, we're winning it all this year. If that's you, good for you. If you think they're going to get bounced out in the first round, you can let me know in the comment section below. You're probably going to catch some hate from some other Mavs fans, but just let me know what you guys think. Mavs fans, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.